Before we go on to the last type of the language variations, that is non-native varieties, we will look into varieties of British English. So, when we are talking about varieties of British English, it is nothing but the dialects of England. Okay, already you know what you mean by the word dialect, isn't it? So, depending on the geographical area, when the language varies, that is called as the dialect of a particular language. So, when talking about English dialects, it is nothing but the various dialects that is formed because of the geographical area. Okay, and we have seen quite a few dialects of England also, if you remember or not, like Northumbrian or Kentish or Derby. So these are some of the dialects of England. So, because of the various dialects, you can see varieties of English language within England itself. Okay, and that is why it comes under this heading varieties of British English, meaning that the dialects within the country of England. Okay, the English dialects within the country of England. That is what we are going to see in this subtopic. So I've just put up as points for this topic, that is varieties of British English, meaning English dialects. So what are the examples that come under this points? No, that is what we are going to see one by one. So the first one, they talk about the northern dialects, meaning that the northern part of England, what type of variations they show in the language of English. So here the northern dialects have k in the place of standard English ch. Okay, this is ch sound and this is k sound. Okay, so what type of difference we can see in the language of English is they just substitute k for ch, as in the word church. So how do we pronounce this word church? It is ch a ch. Okay, church. That is what is a standard English pronunciation of church. But what the northern dialects do, they just substitute k for that of ch. So what will become this pronunciation? Instead of ch, k, and then here also k. So how do they pronounce churches? Kirk. Okay, so this is one variation in the pronunciation in the dialect of northern parts of England. Okay, and in the second example, they talk about the French loan words. Okay, since certain parts of England, they just substitute French loan words instead of the English one. For example, words like Arvain. So we name it as spider in English, but instead of spider they call it as Arvine, which has been borrowed from French language. Okay, and the same way, instead of sorrow they tell it as dole, and then disagreeable smell, that they substitute for the word hogo. Okay, and all these words are Arvine, dole, hogo, or French loan words. And in the third point, what we are going to see is the usage of alliteration and rhyming. Okay, so certain dialect speakers of English language, they speak in rhymes. Okay, in alliteration and rhymes. You know what is called as alliteration? When you have the same sounds no in one or two of the adjacent words, that is called as alliteration. For example, the sound g l, here also you have similarly in the next word g l. So this is called as an alliteration. So to glunch and gloom, this is an alliteration. In the same way, here one more example, meddle and make, m alliteration again. Okay, to meddle or make. So this is what is alliteration, and most of the dialect speakers use this type of English. Okay, that is speaking with alliteration and rhyming words. And apart from this, in the fourth example, they are talking about the same word having different meanings in standard English to that of the dialects. Okay, for example, when you say the word soft and simple, So what they mean in northern dialects is nothing but feeble mindedness. Okay, so what they mean by soft and simple in northern dialect is feeble mindedness, but which is not so in the standard English. You know what is the exact meaning of soft and simple, isn't it? So the meaning itself will sometimes vary in the dialect. And in the last example, they are talking about certain words that are in standard English. They do not come in the dialects. For example, words like boy and girl, no? So that is what we use in standard English. But in dialects, they never use boy and girl. So instead of boy and girl, what they use is lad and lass. Okay. So this type of using some other word in dialects is also one of the examples under this one, that is variety of British English, when we are talking about its vocabulary. So far what we have seen, no, under varieties of British English in the sub topic vocabulary. Okay, so almost 5 examples you have seen, that is substituting cur for ch, and then using the French loan words, and then the usage of alliteration and rhyming, and then the words give different meaning, and the last one is they use some other word in the dialects instead of what is used in the standard English. Okay, so all these 5 examples you have to remember under vocabulary of English dialects. So now we will go on to the pronunciation part of English dialects. So what are the changes the English dialects make in the case of the pronunciation of English language? So here again you have 5 examples under pronunciation. So we will see one by one. The first example, they are talking about the sound L. Okay. So in certain words, no, I mean like all or full. So where you have the back vowel. So you will come to know what is back vowel, front vowel and central one in the coming units. Okay. So you need not bother about too much here. So just remember it is a back vowel. Okay, so when the l is coming after a back vowel, for example in the words like a and all and full. Okay, a is a back vowel, similarly oo is a back vowel. Okay, and here you have the sound l after a back vowel, that is a and oo. So in this circumstance what happens, the Scottish people who use a variety of English, they used to skip the l sound altogether. So how do they pronounce all and full? They simply say a, foo. Okay, so this is one variety of English under pronunciation. The second example, they are talking about the sound a. So what do they talk about here is when a occurs before voiceless fricatives instead of the long vowels are, as in the words like laugh and fast. Okay, so for example here what you have, no, fur, and then t at the end of the word I am telling. For example, we'll go to the pronunciation and then you will understand better. So here in the word laugh, no, so how it is phonetically transcribed is, it is l and then a and then f. It becomes laugh. Okay, similarly when you're talking about fast, so here you have the sound f, a, s, t. Okay, so if you just look at the last sound, here what you are having is f, and here what you are having is t. Okay, so when you are having a just before the voiceless fricative f, and then here you are having voiceless fricative t, this a is actually substituted by a in the dialect. Okay, so that is what they are telling. So how do we pronounce laugh or fast is l, a, f. F, a, s, t. But in certain dialects, instead of a, what they substitute is a. Okay, so this is a sound. So how do they pronounce l, a, f, laugh? Okay, it is not laugh for them, it is laugh. Similarly, f, a, s, t, fast. Okay, so this is one more example where they substitute a instead of r. And in third example, they talk about the two vowel sounds. Okay, so one vowel sound is this one. It is like a cap. Okay, how this is pronounced is and one more vowel sound is this one. So how this is pronounced is oo. Okay, this is and this is oo. But in certain dialects, they don't differentiate the pronunciation of and oo. So they pronounce in the same way. Okay. And going to the next example, they are talking about the usage of g in the place of ing. Okay, so this is this is g sound, and what symbol you have here is ing. Okay, so in certain dialects they pronounce just the g sound instead of ing sound. For example, in the word singing, so how to pronounce this word is e ing ing, singing. That is what is the right pronunciation. Okay, so here you can see s e ing g e ing g. So the dialect speakers of Northwest Midland, no, they just substitute g sound instead of ing sound. We'll go to the last example where they are talking about the intrusive verb. Again, you need not worry so much about intrusive verb. In the coming chapters, you will be well aware of what is intrusive verb. Okay, just know that it is a r sound. So, what certain dialect speakers, for especially the South Midland dialects, know, what they do is they just intrude one r sound between the final vowel one and the initial vowel one. Okay, so for example, if you are just uttering a sentence where you have two words, so the one word ending with a vowel sound and just the next word begins with a vowel sound. Clear? So you are having an end vowel sound and the next word again it begins with a vowel sound. In that case, the speakers of South Midland, what they do is they just put a r sound in between the two vowel sounds. That is what is called as intrusive r. For example, if I say the sentence Asia and Africa, okay, so here Asia, it ends with a vowel sound, and again it begins with a vowel sound. So the speakers of South Midland will not say Asia and Africa. How they utter the same sentence is Asia and Africa. Okay, this r sound between Asia and that is called as intrusive r. Clear? So now we'll go to the next subtopic, morphology. Morphology is nothing but the words. Okay, minimum meaningful unit is called as morphology. So the first example they are talking about is derivations of new words. Okay, so certain dialects they just coin compound words and derivatives from the native English. For example, they have listed out a few words here. Has been. Okay, has been is a word used by certain dialects, and the meaning is a person or thing past its prime. That is called as has been. And never sweat. Never sweat, the meaning is a lazy fellow. And then dateless, meaning stupid. So there are ample of words when you are just checking the dialect speakers new coined words, no. So these are few examples given in this textbook. And going to the second example, they talk about the usage of the prefix un, that is un, and certain words where we use im and in as prefixes, no, instead of that they simply substitute for un. Okay, for example, what we have in standard English is impossible, indecent, irregular, isn't it? So here if you just check, no, so these are all the dialect uses words. So instead of impossible they tell unpossible, indecent they tell undecent, irregular they tell unregular. So these are again certain examples that come under the usage of prefixes. And apart from that, the indefinite article so wherever they want to use the indefinite article or an, everywhere they simply substitute for Okay, an is not at all used by certain dialect speakers. They don't care about whether the word begin with a vowel or not. Simply they substitute with instead of an. And the next one is they talk about here is the definite article the. Okay, so coming to the definite article, the Kent and Sussex people, what they do is instead of the they use de. Okay, and certain other people they simply use t or th or d. Okay, that is used by northern dialects. So Kent and Sussex they use de for the definite article the, and when you're talking about northern dialects they use t or th or d instead of the the. Okay, and coming to the next example, here you have about the adjectives. So certain adjectives are very strange here. If you just look into know the words tin and pots. So simply by adding en, they make an adjective. Okay, and then glass and bottles. So such type of very unique adjectives are formed by adding en. And apart from that, they also tend to use double comparatives and superlatives. So double comparative is nothing but if you check this example, you will know what is that more beautifuler. So what is the correct? Standard English is more beautiful, isn't it? So they add more as well as er. So it becomes a double comparative. Similar way, betterer. Better is itself a comparative degree, but after that also they are adding er. So it becomes a double comparative. So now we'll go to the next subunit, that is syntax. Syntax is nothing but the sentence. So what are the variations in language in case of the sentence? That is what we are going to see in this topic. So first thing that you have to remember about syntax in dialects is they don't stick to the rules. Okay, so they just make sentences as they wish. So for example, here when you look into the sentence, no, who belongs to these cows? So what is the meaning here is who is the owner of this cows? To whom do they belong? That's what it means. So just like that, they make sentences in the dialects compared to that of standard English. And apart from that, no, they are they tend to use redundant personal pronouns. What I mean by redundant personal pronouns is they tend to use two personal pronouns together. For example, here if you check the example, they have given Ode Amos, he knows not about it. So already they have given one name. It is redundant to use one more he here. Okay, and that is one natural way of dialect speakers of standard English. Okay, and then next one they are talking about is northern dialects. So what they do is they just add the or to, okay, before an imperative. So why they do is just to give emphasis. Okay, so you know what is called as imperative sentence, isn't it? So for example, here they have given one example, the get out. Get out is an imperative sentence that is more than enough in standard English, but simply they add one the here. So why do they add the here is to give one emphasis to the imperative. And in the next example, they talk about the usage of are and your just before the proper names to indicate family relationship. For example, our son, or it's not son actually, our any name, for example, our Ram or our Sita. So your Ram or your Sita. So just like that, they precede the proper noun with our or your. Okay, so why do they do is to indicate family relationship, and this type of thing is made in the North Country. Okay, so this geographically divided people know who belong to North Country, they use this type of sentences. And the next one, they talk about the plural pronoun us, which is often used as an indirect object with singular meaning. Okay, so here they have talking about one sentence, give us a bite. So even though us is actually plural, they here mean to be used as in singular. Okay, and then the next one is they talk about the usage of that, and that here they are often used in the sense of to such an extent. Okay, so for example, in the sentence, he was that hungry. So that here stands for, so he was how much hungry. That's what they mean here, and this is one dialect. Okay, and last one is certain dialect speakers, they commonly use ought in this way: you didn't ought. So we never use this type of sentence in standard English. You know what is the proper use of ought in standard English, isn't it? So when do we use ought is, it's like a instead of should or must, we use ought in standard English, and it is never used after an auxiliary verb in standard English, but this is totally ungrammatical. So these are few examples that come under syntax. So we have talked a lot about the varieties of British English, that is English dialects, starting from vocabulary. We will just brush up. So we have seen almost 5 examples, that is usage of que instead of ch, and then French loan words, usage of alliteration and rhyming, and the words having different senses. And then they talk about the usage of lad and lass instead of boy and girl. And then the second subtopic, that is pronunciation. We have seen lots of pronunciation difference in the dialects of English. For example, they substitute a instead of a, and then they skip l sound, and there is no difference between a and u. And then the usage of g instead of ing, and then the intrusive r. And then we came into the morphology, and then we saw the coining of new words like never sweat or dateless, something like that. And then the usage of the usage of prefix un instead of the standard English prefixes, and using a wherever it is to be used an also, and the usage of th instead of the the, and then the formation of adjectives using en, and then the double comparatives, and so forth. Okay, and then we came into the syntax part, where they don't bother about the grammatical sentences, and then the redundant personal pronoun, and then the intrusion of the or thu just in front of the imperatives, and then the usage of are and your, and then usage of us as singular meaning, and then the meaning of that, and at last the usage of ought.